welcome everybody. We're excited to have you here today. My name is Jason Lindstrom. We're going to be getting the webinar started in just a few moments. Today we're going to be talking about how to use purpose, vision, and values to build a hyper-growth company. I can see a bunch of people have already joined us. I'm going to give it about another 30 seconds and then kick this thing off, but I can see a bunch of people have entered. Andy, welcome. Diane, welcome. Ferris, good to see you, my friend. Jane, Kathy, Carrie, welcome everybody. In today's session, feel free to use the chat window or the questions window. If you guys have any questions or feedback as we go through this thing, we're going to be answering questions at the end, but as things pop up, please feel free to pop in your questions. And maybe this is a quick question for the attendees. Can everybody see the slides okay on their side? Feel free to throw it in the chat window there. Excellent. Yeah, we're looking good. You guys can see them well.
That was me.
Great. So with that, why don't we kick things off? So who the heck am I? My name is Jason Lindstrom. I'll give you a quick background on myself. I've actually built 3 high-growth tech companies in my time. One of them was awarded as the best place to work, and I deeply care about culture and values. My current focus is on a company called Bucket List, which is a rewards and recognition platform, helping to build some of the best cultures on planet Earth. And co-presenting with me here today is Chris Kaplan. He's a super smart guy. I met him about 1 year ago at a conference called Mastermind Talks, and I was super impressed. So Chris has built an 8-figure business, and now he's switched his focus to coaching some rock star organizations and some amazing CEOs. He's also an Ironman triathlete, and I just found out that he completed 5 Ironmans, which is by anybody's definition pretty damn amazing. So he's got some great stories and some good experiences he's going to be sharing with us today. What the heck are we going to go over? So Chris is going to be talking us through purpose, vision, and core values. And then I'm going to get really tactical, and I'm going to show you how Google and Netflix brings vision and values alive on a day-to-day basis. So we're going to start out very basic, and we're going to build a nice little foundation, and then we're going to get hyper-tactical. My goal for today's webinar is to give you guys some tools and tactics that you can ideally implement in your business today to start getting more value, to start getting more buy-in, and to really bring your values alive, I guess you could say. So with that, I'd love to turn it over to Chris to get us going. Thank you, Chris. Let's do this.
Hey, Jason, thank you for the introduction. You know, I always tell people if I'm the smartest person in the room, y'all are in trouble. And I hope that's not necessarily true today. I want to focus everyone's attention and energy on our people and our strategy in and around the idea of our core purpose, our vision, and our core values. Want to go to the next slide? So it all started for me about 10 years ago. And I met this guy who was giving a presentation. His name is Simon Sinek, and it was before he was really popular out there, before his book, before his TED Talk. And he came to Boston and he talked about starting with why and defining your purpose. And it simply just resonated with me like nothing before that. And I quickly remember calling somebody and saying, hey, do you know what your why is? And her quick response to me was, yeah, we entertain, we educate, and we inspire. That's what we do every single day. And I was dumbfounded. It was actually my mom. She runs a retail store, and we coach her today. And that purpose is alive and well within the organization. And it's probably why they are one of the top retailers of their size in the country. So Simon is where some of the thought behind purpose comes from. I'm going to go to the next slide. Jason's going to share some ideas later and how this is in place. I'm going to give people the framework to think about what it would be like to, if you don't have your own, to create your own purpose, vision, and values. And if you already have them, to filter test them. and with a little inspiration about companies that are using them. But I'm going to teach the basics, and Jason's going to show you them certainly in use with companies like Google and Netflix later on. So you want to go to the next slide?
So I've been talking to a lot of companies lately, small companies, large companies, and one of the questions I've been hearing a lot, Chris, is how do we determine purpose? What is the process to determine purpose?
Sure. So ultimately what we want people to do is, like, I want this to be the driving force that gets them out of bed. I want this to be the thing that they make every decision they do filter through it. Should we develop this product? Should we hire this person? Should we fire this person? Can we run it through the filter test, which we'll talk about in a little bit, of does this fit our core purpose? Core purpose, the shortest, easiest way to get there is think about what you do, think about how you do it, do the reverse of what Simon talks about in his book, Start With Why, and get to that why we do what we do, or why we think we do what we do. And then pretend there's a 5-year-old in the room. I've got 2 kids, and I've heard this question asked of me a million times. Why is the sky blue? Why is the grass green? Why is this? Why is that? And so I want you to ask, why is this important? Why does this matter? Why is this important? Why does this matter? And why is this important? I'll be happy to send the framework out to anyone who wants that a little later on in this webinar. So once we drill down 5 times, and it becomes difficult after, say, the second or third poke at it, we start to get close to, my job is to save the world. My job is to make the world a better place. Grasshopper, my friend David Hauser's former company, was empowering entrepreneurs. Super simple, yet super focused. Next slide.
So how can we tell if the purpose is alive in our organization?
Sure. So we can go to the next slide, great, right there. So I said earlier there's a filter test, and you can take whatever that core purpose is right now and take a look back in the past a little bit. So let's go down the negative side, just to use it as a test. Were there some previous bad hires that we had? Let's pull one of those out of our drawer, and would they have fit through this filter if I asked them questions in and around what our core purpose is? I'm all about kickstarting clarity. So if somebody comes to me as a potential client and they just have no interest in finding out where they want to be going, why they want to be going there, how they're going to get there, we're going to have a hard time working together. If at Grasshopper the core purpose was empowering entrepreneurs, if somebody came there and they were just in it for themselves and they just wanted to sell, and they really didn't care about the entrepreneurs that they were serving, it probably wouldn't have made it past the initial hiring process. So would it have showed up in failed strategies in the past? Would it have showed up as poor fits within our organization? Any frustrations or any, we'll call them friction points? Would they be eliminated if we could just ask the question in and around core purpose? Go next. So I said earlier that we want to get people to, like, jump out of bed in the morning and know exactly what they're supposed to be doing. And when we get that core purpose right, and we get the right people in the right seats doing the right things or in and around that core purpose, this is the kind of people that you get at your company. We'll go to the next. So I think the next step here is really vision. And vision to me is, and I learned this from both Brian Scudamore at 1-800-GOT-JUNK and Cameron Harold. So one calls it a painted picture and another calls it a vivid vision. I call it a clarity canvas, but it's all based on the premise of if I were to go find my happy spot and go sit on my hammock out by the water and take a pencil with me and some paper and close my eyes and just get warm and cozy and comfortable. What would I like my life, or what would I like my business to look like 3 years from today? What are my people like? What is my marketing like? What's my advertising like? What are my sales like? What are my profits like? What's our culture like? Our onboarding, our offboarding process? What are people saying about us? Every aspect of our business and every area of our business, give it 2, 3, 4 bullet points of what that looks like 3 years from now, and we start to get that, something that we can show all of our employees that this is our North Star. This is the direction that we're headed. And without any attention paid to how we're going to get there or what we have to do to get there. It's just something that's 3 years out. I like to adjust it at the end of every year so it continues to be 3 years out, and it actually, you never get to the ending point. And so it becomes like this, like self-fulfilling. Because once I set that goal, no matter what it is, whether it's a sales goal or a people goal, I seem to be able to get more done. My company seemed to be able to get more done in 6 months, 12 months than I ever gave them credit for when I was looking 3 years out in the future. So the second step to this process, and I'll send the framework for this as well to anyone who wants it, is to then drill it down. And at our weekly meetings, at our daily huddles, and our monthly meetings and our quarterly planning sessions, we take little nuggets out of that vivid vision, out of that painted picture, and assign somebody the task of getting us from where we are to where we want to go, and give them good KPIs to measure along the way. We'll go to the next slide. So then it comes to the final portion, which is core values, and these are just the rules that we live by. And I'll walk through. You can go to the next slide. We see these values a lot at companies, and we see them, and I call them words on a wall. And while these words on a wall are super profound, I see a lot of companies that just put stuff up there just because it looked nice. You walked into Enron's offices, I think honesty and transparency were there. You walked into BP's office prior to their accident, and safety was there, but they weren't core to the organization. I'm not a big fan of honesty, integrity, and things like that being within our core values. I actually call those table stakes. These should be like the basic bottom line entry point that every person, every company should have if they want to do business in the world today. The second set of values are things that we want to be good at. And we see these up on walls in offices all the time, and I ask CEOs, like, is this really happening? And they're like, no, that's kind of something we strive for. And I'm going to call that an aspirational value. And they're good to have, but we have to classify them as aspirational. Core values are really the DNA of our organization. You can go to the next slide. So the core values are really kind of what our existing culture, no matter if we're a 2-person firm or a 500-person or a 5,000-person firm, the 3 to 5 components of our that just differentiate us from everyone else out there. And so Rackspace is a great example. And when Graham presented to our group at MIT, he made it clear that they were all about fanatical support. And I quickly switched from having our servers in our office to putting them up in the cloud at Rackspace. And it wasn't an easy process because I wasn't the brightest IT bulb in the box, but they made it incredibly easy with fanatical support. And to them, it means 2 things. 1, you call, they're going to get answered within 2 to 3 rings. And 2, the person who answers the phone 100% will be able to solve the problem that you've called them with. They'll never have to escalate it because they put somebody smart and dedicated answering their phones. They've dedicated, they don't have just Joe Schmo answering it. And I really like that, and it was a great example. So I want to emphasize that these differentiate us. So while teamwork can be a core value, how you frame it is, and how you live it and eat and breathe it, that's different from everyone else, is what really matters, and where that core value should really settle around. And you'll notice on the core values here that, like, results first, embrace change, keep our promises. So they weren't things like integrity and honesty. They, I've got some clients with some things like welcomed with a warm heart, going above and beyond. And those are the things that truly differentiate those people, those companies, and what I hope I can get everyone to, or who's interested to, on this call. So you want to go to the next? Jason, you want to go to the next slide?
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, I'm talking to a lot of organizations and people leaders, and I know that a lot of companies, there's two themes I'm spotting. The one I've been seeing a ton is people are asking or saying my values are really out of date, and basically like the people, either the employees don't know them, they're not living them on a daily basis, or if those things aren't happening, they're also saying things like the values just don't resonate anymore. So what's the process to define or potentially even update your values?
Sure. So we'll go with the finding them first. And one of two methods that I use is called the Mission to Mars. And I will take the executive leadership team in an offsite and ask them two questions. One, using some sticky notes, and you can put one name on each sticky note. Pick somebody in the organization that just truly exemplifies what this company is all about. They live, eat, and breathe Company X. Who are they? What's their one name? And right below that, what's the one characteristic, and only one characteristic or attribute, that best defines them? And they can come up with 3 to 5 names. And when everyone's got those 3 to 5 names, I have them take all the sticky notes and bring them up and put them up on a big wall, and start to organize them either by person, so we can recognize the person as being clearly a leader amongst. But more importantly, I like to organize them by the particular attributes that are showing up. And what you'll start to see is that a few really resonate to the top. If you've got 5 or 6 people voting, or 10 people on your executive team voting, you'll start to see 3 or 4, maybe even 5 lines of sticky notes starting to be bigger than all the other ones. It doesn't mean the other ones can't be core values. It just means this is really, really being proven out over and over again. And hopefully it comes from a number of different people and not the same person over and over again. And but then we're stuck. So now we've got, we might just have compassion up there. And compassion by itself is awesome to have. And I don't think that I would say it's not a core value, but I like people to wordsmith it a little bit. And if there's a good marketing person or a good wordsmither in the room, awesome. If not, I love to send it out to somebody who can help with that process. And we've got a few that we work with that help to get them sounding right as well as feeling right. And then we bring them back to the team, make the presentation. And if really everyone feels like that's it, then we need to put it through one more test, which is, let's send out this list and to have the CEO send this list of values out to all of the employees, and ask them to write me a story about somebody at the organization that lives, eats, and breathes these. Show me a little white paper. Show me a little, even if it's a 1-paragraph story of, I saw Jason living the core value of going above and beyond. He put this webinar together in no time and did a rock star job with it. So, because I want to start seeing those proved out. So that's the Mission to Mars. And if that doesn't work, we do this thing called Like Loathe, which is just take everything you hate and flip it. But that's my short version of that one. So on to the next slide.
So last question. So let's say I have values. How do I know if they're any good, and how do I really bring them to life?
So this is where we take let's take our existing ones or the ones that we come up with. And at Gazelles, we teach 3. Would you fire somebody for offending these? If they weren't living, eating, breathing all of our core values and they stepped over the line with one of them, would you fire them? And if not, it's probably not a core value. Or that person sells a whole lot for you and you're willing to take that hit. And I don't think that's right. I think it's fair to give them a warning, but show them what it's like to live it. Oftentimes we find that, and maybe it's a bad word, but you know those that aren't living our core values are the cancers within our, the barnacles within our organization, and they never seem to come around. The second is, would I take a financial hit? If honesty and integrity were a core value of ours, if making mama proud was a core value of ours, and I was about to engage with a new client that just really was all out for themselves and really didn't care about, like, you know, anyone else out there, I would say that that person's not going to fit well with my core values, and am I willing to say no to working with them as a result of that? If so, then it might resonate. It might actually be a core value. And are they alive among our people? Do we have actions that support them? Do we have recognition programs? Can my existing employees rattle off a handful of people that are living and eating and breathing them? And can we, you know, talk about them on a regular basis? So next. And the second way would be to run it through the filter test. So, and we can take a look at previous bad hires, once again, failed strategies, poor fits, frustrations, and any performance issues that we have. Run any one of those previous scenarios through this new filter test. So now I've got purpose, vision, and values. And if they make it through all those things, it's probably going to be a great venture. If they don't make it through, that should be a red flag that gets our attention. So next. So that last thing is really where can we use these? And we want to have it in our, if we're bringing new people into our organization, I want you asking 3 to 5 questions in and around each of the values that get them talking about how they already live those in their lives. At least we know then we've got a good cultural fit, and then we can teach them how to do just about anything, except for coding. Is it in our brand messaging? Do we have recognition programs? Are we using bucket list? Do we have it in our team assessments? And is it available for everyone to see? And that's what I got for you. So you can go to the next slide. Show us some examples.
Excellent. So here's where it gets really interesting. I think Chris just laid a really good foundation on how to identify vision, values, and purpose. I'm gonna show you how 2 big companies are actually executing this, and you'll see how seamlessly these 2 things fit together, both the theory, tactics, and how big companies are living the strategy. So let's talk about Google first and foremost. So I know everybody is probably familiar with Google, but let me give you some quick stats. They have 72,000 employees, which is amazing. They're currently over $89 billion in revenue. They're also rated the #1 place to work by Fortune magazine, and I think that's awesome. If you think about that, a company that can scale that big and that fast and yet still maintain its culture and still be recognized as one of the best workplaces. So I think we can all agree Google's pretty darn amazing, but I want to share just one story around how they're bringing their values to life within the company. Like, how do you do this thing at scale? So first and foremost, here's a quick snapshot of Google's core values. They have things like avoid micromanagement, fun and freedom, openness, general ethics, and corporate citizenship. So one way they bring the values to life is by building programs that really capture and live the values. So that one value, fun and freedom, I'll speak to that a little bit. So some of you may be familiar with Google's 20% rule, where for a number of years, Google gave their employees, their engineers, 20% of their week to work on any projects that they wanted to. And from that time, some amazing products were birthed. So specifically, Gmail came out of that program, which is probably a program everybody's familiar with, and with hundreds and hundreds of millions of users. But even more specifically, let's talk about how they brought the values to life inside of their organization on a daily basis. So if you have 70,000, well, in their case, if you have over 70,000 employees, what are you doing to get your employees to live the values? Because with any organization, it can't just be the founders who are trying to walk and talk the values on a daily basis. So Google released something called Gthanks. You can see a screenshot of that up on screen. It's simply a tool, it's a recognition tool, where employees can recognize one another for doing a job well done or for living the core values. It's a digital portal that's integrated with other systems, but it's had a pretty profound impact inside of the company. And let me show you some of the results. So Google is well known for their data-driven approach to everything, meaning they measure everything they do. So when they rolled out Gthanks, there were some skeptics internally, but what they found was there's a 460% increase in the amount of recognition inside of the organization. So very quickly, employees were quick to adopt the tool and quick to use the tool as a way to recognize one another and as a way to bring the values to life, so to recognize one another for living the values. The senior vice president of people at Google, who's now no longer works at Google, but back then his name was Laszlo Bock, his theory was that why do people love this more than email or speaking privately? It's because people love public recognition. More than anything else, people love to be praised. Next, I'm going to talk about Netflix a bit more. And although they're a huge company, they have some really great takeaways I think everybody here would love to implement into their business. So back in 2009, the Netflix founder, Reed Hastings, published a 124-page slide deck called the Netflix Culture, Freedom, and Responsibility Guide. It quickly became a viral hit down in the Silicon Valley because it was so compelling. So that document still exists. It's on the career page of the Netflix website. So this is just a screenshot. If you were to go there on your own, you can see the same deck. And if I was to click that big red button, View or Culture Deck, this is what I would see. So if you open up the culture book, you very quickly get a sense of what Netflix is all about. I'm going to read just a little bit directly from these slides. So over on the left-hand side, it says, at Netflix, we particularly value the following 9 behaviors and skills in our colleagues, meaning we hire and promote people who demonstrate these 9. So if you think a little bit earlier to the presentation, Chris has said the filter test for values were, are you willing to hire, promote, and fire based upon your values? And you can see that Netflix is in fact doing this. And they're doing it inside of their culture book, and they're sharing it before people even apply for the job. Over on the right-hand side, you see an example of just one of those values, which happens to be courage. I took a screenshot of this because this is something that really resonated with me. I was like, I thought this was actually impressive that they shared this. So what does courage mean at Netflix? It means you say what you think, even if it's controversial. You make tough decisions without agonizing about it. You take smart risks. You question actions inconsistent with our values. So sharing this up front will drive the wrong people away and will start to attract the right people. I bet you in the audience today, some people are like, that's an awesome value, where others are like, you know what, maybe that's not a fit for me. And with any team, if you have some good, simple alignment around values, around what really matters, you very quickly become a high-performing team. So to dig a little bit deeper, you'll see Netflix is not shy about wanting to be high performance. Over on the left-hand side, they say we are a team, not a family. We're like a pro sports team, not a kids recreational team, meaning they hire, fire very smartly. And they have something called the Netflix Keeper Test. And I'm just going to read this question because I think it's so compelling. And as I'm reading it, I want you guys on the call today to actually ask this of yourself. So how do you know whether you have an employee at Netflix you should keep or not keep? So you can ask yourself, which of my people, if they told me they were leaving for a similar job at a peer company, would I fight hard to keep at Netflix? So if I was to run this filter at my own companies, I know without doubt there's some people who would fail. I would not fight to keep them on staff. So Netflix has extremely high standards around recruitment, retention, and they're all aligned around values. So some people would be like, you know, what the hell, you know, I don't really care about these culture books. Does anybody look at them? if you were to go actually take a peek at this culture book, you'd see that it's been viewed almost 16 million times, which is amazing. And of those, I'm sure it attracted and pushed away many thousands of candidates to work or not work at the organization. And then very briefly, Netflix has done an amazing job of bringing their values alive throughout the entire employee experience. So what is the employee experience? The values are alive in the hiring stage. They're in fact even alive prior to the hiring stage when people are just browsing their culture book. So they're alive in the hiring, 360-degree reviews, compensation reviews, in exit interviews, and of course in promotion. So just as a quick bonus, we're going to share the slide deck with everybody who attended today. I'm going to include links to the Netflix culture book. There's also another one put on or built by HubSpot, and Zappos just has a rockin' culture book as well. So these can be a fairly simple exercise to put together, and check out these inspirational guides just to help you with your own process. So at the end of the day, I also I've been at conferences lately where people are asking things like, how important is culture? How important are values? And I thought this was just an amazing quote. This is actually from the LinkedIn Culture Book. They said that in a 10-year study of the world's 50 best businesses, they concluded that those who centered their business on a culture of improving people's lives had a growth rate triple that of competitors in the same category. So I think this is something we can all aspire to, but it also speaks very clearly about the ROI of building great culture and great values. So with that, we're going to turn it over. We have a couple of freebies we'd love to offer you guys today. And we'd also like to open it up to some questions. And I already see a few questions coming on in. But what the heck did we just cover? We talked about how to define your purpose, vision, and values. We talked about how to bring these alive in your organization. We also shared how Netflix brings their values alive using a culture book and how Google inspires their team using tactics and tools. So we have a couple of special offers. The first one, it's a total freebie. It's from Chris. I think this is an amazing offer. So if you want help to define your core purpose and values, I'm going to put up on screen a little survey, a little pop-up where you can see yes or no. This is just a free ebook. Give me 1 second. Great, I'll launch that poll. So would you like a free workbook to define your purpose and values? This is a complimentary offer from Chris, who's a rock star at this stuff. So I'm going to leave that up on screen for a few seconds here. Not surprisingly, 100% of people said yes, they would. That's awesome. 100% of people said yes, they'd love to get a copy of this. That's great.
I tried saying yes, but it wouldn't let me.
I love it. Okay, I'm going to close this poll down. And then the next offer is from myself and the people at Bucket List. So what we did is, I'd love to ask you guys, do you want to bring your values alive like Google did? What we did is we built a white label version of the GThinks platform so that everybody can create a rewards and recognition system inside of their company. So if you're interested, I'm going to pop another survey up on screen where you can just request a free demo of the Bucket List rewards and recognition platform. So if you want help or you want a tool to really help bring your values alive, simply reply yes to this poll question. Over at Bucket List, currently we're working with companies anywhere from sort of 50 all the way up to 5,000 employees, and we're seeing some amazing results in the organizations that we're launching in. Wonderful. I can see it looks like everybody's mostly had a chance to answer this poll. I'm going to close it on down. Excellent. And then I'm going to open it up to questions. So up on screen, you'll see our contact information, so please feel free to reach us directly. But let me go to my little questions tab and see what we got in there. So the first question is from Jane. Thank you very much, Jane. And the question is, do you find that different groups, i.e. baby boomers or millennials, feel differently about this? We have a star performer who's been here 15 to 20 years, awesome, but seems to have that entitlement mentality or just working for the money. Interesting. So I guess I'm going to reiterate that or say it a little bit differently. Do you find that different groups feel differently about, I guess, recognition, rewards, and values? and it sounds like there's a bit of an entitlement problem with the person who's been working at the organization for a long time. I can give a short answer, and Chris, if you want to elaborate, please feel free to do so. So, Jane, I think that's a great question. You tapped into something that I've definitely seen both in white papers and in my own experience. So the data is saying that millennials specifically care more about the why of an organization. So Simon Sinek has actually released a couple of great videos on this, and his whole value prop is starting with why. And the millennials I know personally, and from the data I've seen, all care about a big why. And also, they're also the generation that cares about recognition than any other generation. But having said that, everybody loves to be told thank you at the end of the day. And that's just my 2 cents. Chris, do you have any additional thoughts on that one?
I do. Thanks, and it's a great question. And it's easy to just use the data to say that millennials this, millennials that. And I think I don't care what generation you're from, we're human. And I'm from the human generation. And if I truly have something that's core to my soul and people recognize me for it, I can't do anything but smile and be grateful and give that person 100%, that company 100% of what I have to offer. If that person is not performing, maybe it's not, maybe it's not an age problem or what category they fall in. Maybe it's an actual core values problem.
Excellent. And next question is, how frequently should you be talking about your values? Chris, do you want to have a first stab at this, or would you like me to kick it off?
So, sure, I'll poke at it first. I like to see the core values and the core purpose talked about in every single daily huddle that exists at your organization. So daily at a minimum. And that's just a recognition of one and somebody living it or something like that. Every 90 days, I break the leadership teams, and take a look at the core values and just simply ask, on a scale of 0 to 10, how are we living this as an individual and as a company? And over the next 90 days, what could we implement to be doing a little bit better of a job?
Awesome. And I'll just add one tidbit to that, because that's pretty much exactly what I was going to say. But if you guys want to see an awesome example of one company who's living their values on a daily basis, just go to YouTube and Google 1-800-GOT-JUNK Daily Huddle, and you'll see how they're recognizing one another for living their values on a daily basis. They also talk about KPIs, and they also sort of share how the business is progressing on a day-to-day basis. I've actually had a chance to attend the meeting. I think they had 300 people, 300 employees when I was there in separate offices, but it's a 7-minute meeting. It's a stand-up meeting. It's super energetic. People are pumped, and it's just a great way to be living your values on a daily basis. And one final question here. It looks like, do you have any good books or resources where I can learn more about bringing values alive? So one that comes to the top of my mind is called Scaling Up, which is an awesome book. And another one is similar to that, is called Traction. Those are 2 great resources which talk about how to bring values alive in your company, but also how to measure them. The Traction book has this really neat model. They call it GWC. How do you know, which is get it, want it, and capacity to do it. And inside of that, on a monthly or quarterly basis, you can evaluate whether people are living the values or not. So Traction has a great little tool in it to allow you to measure people, whether they're on board with the values or not on board with the values. But Chris, any other resources or book you want to share with the team here today?
I think it's awesome that in one sentence you use that word that begins with a T 3 times to advertise my competition, but that's all good. So I'm going to go with the Scaling Up book. Really the simple thing, yes, while I don't say that Scaling Up's a great book to read because it's really an encyclopedia of how to implement Rockefeller habits and 1-page plan into your business to truly scale it up and make it easy without any friction points. That'll be my ad. It's really ask that simple question every single 90 days of your leadership team or all the teams. How are we living these? What could we be doing better? and recognize them on a daily basis in those huddles, in those weekly meetings, in those monthly management meetings, have the conversation often, and life is good. And there goes the vacuum cleaner in my house.
Well, that's perfect because that's